Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily DVAR Halacha. And here's a brand new halacha for you, and it's for Wednesday, the 19th day of November. Here we go. There is a halacha that you may or may not be familiar with, which is that if it ever happens that at a occasion you are having two different types of wine, that you would say Bori Pri Hagafen, of course, because you're drinking wine, but then when you get to that second special wine, you say a second bracha for Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Hatov Vehamaitiv. Blessed is God, our King, ruler of the world. I didn't translate that perfectly. Hatov Vehamaitiv, he who does who is good and does good for us. There is such a halacha that on the second bottle of wine you say the bracha of Hatov Vehamaitiv. You have probably not seen that halacha followed too often. Some people are just unaware that it's out there, and I wanted to just explain here, according to some guidelines I read from Rabbi Neustadt, as to why you're not seeing this bracha recited very often, especially if it's something that the rabbi said that we should do. It is basically because there are a lot of complications with this halacha, and because there are so many complications, and we never like to say a bracha in vain, a lot of times when you think it's appropriate to say the bracha of Hatov Vehamaitiv, halacha might say, you're not eligible for it because this requirement wasn't met. And because it's so hard to hit all the requirements that make it perfect to say the Hatov Vehamaitiv on that second bottle of wine, it rarely happens that we hit all of the qualifications, and that's why you rarely see this halacha. Here are the qualifications. First of all, there are a lot of rabbis who say that you would only say the bracha of Hatov Vehamaitiv if you hit the minimum amount of wine drunk by the minimum amount of people drinking it. And in that certain circumstance where you're about to say the bracha of Hatov Vehamaitiv on that second thing of wine, you might not hit that minimum, and therefore you shouldn't be saying the bracha of Hatov Vehamaitiv. That's one of the reasons why you don't see this halacha followed. Second one, clearly you only say the bracha of Hatov Vehamaitiv, according to some poskim, if that second bottle of wine is superior to the first bottle of wine. The superiority of the second bottle of wine is also complicated. Would you decide that by the price? Would you decide that by what people think? People have such different opinions about wines that it could be hard to know whether your second bottle is superior and if it needs to be superior. So that's another monkey wrench in the thing. Before you go and make the bracha, you say, is it superior? Does it need to be superior? I don't know. It's got so complicated. And more. Some people say don't ever do this unless you're at a meal. And sometimes it happens that that second bottle of wine is at a kiddush or something, and you're not actually sitting down to a full meal. Also, there is a great dispute in the poskim as to where does that second bottle of wine need to be. Does it need to be like it was out of sight, and you just said, ooh, and the new bottle came in, and then you said, Hatov Vehamaitiv. If it has to happen like that, sometimes the circumstances aren't right, because that other bottle of wine was right there on the table. Does it need to be like it came from another building, another house, and someone just brought it in? You say, ooh, another wine just arrived. If that's necessary, that doesn't often happen, and that could be another impediment to making the bracha of Hatov Vehamaitiv. Certain circumstances will sometimes make it that because of the way things worked out that you need to make a Bori Pri Hagafen on that second bottle of wine. Well, if you're making a Bori Pri Hagafen on that second bottle of wine, then does it still get Hatov Vehamaitiv? It's getting its own separate wine bracha. And maybe Hatov Vehamaitiv would not be appropriate to tack on to that. Because we don't know what the conclusion is, and it's possible that all these things have to be fulfilled in order for the Hatov Vehamaitiv bracha to happen, that it's really going to happen, and you get all these things, for sure. And that's why people say, I'm not sure we should make the bracha today. The circumstance might be wrong because that bottle of wine was right there on the table with the first one, etc., etc., etc. That's why you don't see this halacha followed too often. Interestingly, I just read in Rabbi Neustadt's book that some Svardim have the custom to never make the bracha of Hatov Vehamaitiv unless a Talmud Chacham is there in the crowd to help them decide. Because they just know it's a law that's known to get messed up, because people aren't sure on the details of when to apply this Hatov Vehamaitiv, and they wouldn't dare make the bracha unless a Talmud Chacham is there to help them decide whether it's appropriate or not. Now, you know a little bit more about the topic, and if you ever see the circumstance coming, by all means ask a good Talmud Chacham about what to do. Thanks for logging on, and I'll log on again tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.